This is a true story, meticulously documented by the police and remembered by a quiet suburban community that would knee. Anna Thompson was the picture of perfection, a devoted wife, a loving stepmother, and a woman of refined taste. At 38, she had settled into a life of comfort and luxury with her husband, Richard Thompson, a wealthy businessman 12 years her senior. They lived in an affluent neighborhood, surrounded by manicured lawns and white picket fences, the kind of place where nothing ever seemed to go wrong. But beneath the surface of this idyllic life, Anna felt a void. She had given up her career as an interior designer to support Richard, yet there was always an emptiness that gnawed at her. It wasn't until Richard's son, Ethan, returned home from university that Anna began to feel something she hadn't felt in years: desire. Ethan had been dealt a harsh blow early in life. His mother, Sarah, had passed away when he was only 10 years old, leaving a void in his heart that nothing could ever fill. Richard, desperate to provide stability for his son and to heal his own wounds, remarried a few years later, and that's when Anna entered their lives. Anna was warm, caring, and eager to take on the role of stepmother, but she could never fully replace the memory of Ethan's mother. At 24, Ethan was charismatic and handsome, with a promising future ahead of him. He was everything Anna once dreamed of in a partner: youthful, full of life, and unburdened by the pressures that weighed down his father. When he moved back into the Thompson home, Anna and Ethan's relationship was casual and distant at first, but that quickly changed. Chapter 2. The affair begins. In the early weeks of Ethan's return to the Thompson home, the atmosphere was awkward and strained. Ethan, having just finished his degree, was adjusting to life back at his father's house, while Anna, who had long settled into the role of stepmother, was attempting to find a new equilibrium. The contrast between Ethan's youthful exuberance and Anna's subdued demeanor created an underlying tension. Anna's initial attempts to bond with Ethan were earnest but lacked depth. She organized family dinners and attempted to engage Ethan in activities that would draw him out of his shell, but he remained distant, absorbed in his own world of recent academic stress and personal struggles. Richard, caught up in his work, barely noticed the subtle shifts in their dynamics. The turning point came during a chance encounter in the study, where Anna and Ethan both sought refuge from the oppressive quiet of the house. Anna, who had been organizing Richard's vast collection of art books, was absorbed in her task when Ethan entered, looking for a book on modern architecture. The two started talking about their shared interest in art, a topic that neither Richard nor his business associates cared about. Anna enthusiastically flipping through a book. This particular period of abstract art was revolutionary. It completely transformed how we view modern aesthetics. Ethan leaning over to look at the book. Absolutely. The way these artists broke away from traditional forms was incredible. It's fascinating how their work still influences us today. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, and for the first time, Anna felt a genuine connection with Ethan. He was insightful and passionate about art, traits that Anna found refreshing compared to the mundane routine of her life. This intellectual spark soon grew into something more intimate. The stolen glances turned into lingering looks, and casual touches became charged with unspoken tension. One evening, while Richard was away on a business trip, Anna and Ethan found themselves alone at the house. The air was thick with anticipation as they prepared a simple dinner together. As they cooked, their conversations became more personal, diving into their dreams, fears, and insecurities. Anna cutting vegetables, her voice soft. Sometimes I wonder if I gave up too much when I decided to stay home and support Richard. I missed the thrill of my career. Ethan slicing bread. Glancing at Anna, I can understand that. It's hard when you feel like you're not living up to your potential. I'm not sure what I want to do with my life yet, but I know it has to be something that excites me. As the night progressed, the warmth of the kitchen and the closeness of their conversation created an almost intoxicating atmosphere. When they finally sat down to eat, the distance between them seemed to vanish. Their knees brushed under the table, and the lingering touches became more frequent. After dinner, they moved to the living room to watch a movie. The choice of a romantic film only added to the charged atmosphere. As the credits rolled, Anna and Ethan found themselves inching closer, their hands touching as they reached for the remote. The moment was electric, and before either of them fully realized what was happening, their lips met in a tentative kiss. The kiss was brief but significant. It was a forbidden act that set the stage for the explosive relationship that would follow. Both were taken aback by the intensity of their feelings, but neither could deny the pull they felt toward each other. Ethan pulling back slightly, his breath uneven. Anna, I don't know what to say. Anna, her eyes wide with a mix of desire and fear. Neither do I. But I can't ignore how I feel, can you? Ethan, grappling with his emotions, nodded. The connection between them was undeniable, but the realization of the consequences weighed heavily on him. Anna, on the other hand, was already lost in the whirlwind of her feelings, driven by the excitement of this new, illicit romance. Chapter 3: Obsession Takes Hold. As weeks passed, the clandestine affair between Anna and Ethan grew in intensity. What had started as a series of secret meetings quickly escalated into a full-blown obsession. The thrill of their forbidden romance became an all-consuming force in both their lives, and the consequences of their actions began to weigh heavily on their minds. The transformation. Ethan, who had once been a reserved and introspective young man, became increasingly fixated on Anna. His thoughts were dominated by her presence, and his once clear goals and ambitions were overshadowed by the allure of their relationship. His academic pursuits and social interactions took a backseat to the moments he could steal with her. Anna, likewise, found herself consumed by the intensity of their affair. Her initial excitement and novelty of the relationship had transformed into a profound and disturbing obsession. Anna's behavior began to change significantly. Her once focused and organized nature became erratic and impulsive. She would often be found lost in thought, staring off into space with a distant look in her eyes. Her work around the house suffered. Tasks that were once completed with diligence were now left unfinished. She seemed distracted, her mind perpetually preoccupied with thoughts of Ethan. Secret encounters. Their meetings became more frequent and elaborate. They developed a series of secret rituals, carefully planned rendezvous, clandestine exchanges, and hidden messages. Anna and Ethan would often sneak away to secluded spots in the house, or meet in parks where they could escape the prying eyes of others. They found solace in these moments, but their secrecy also fueled their obsession. One evening, Anna and Ethan decided to meet at a secluded lake near their home. It was a place they had chosen for its tranquility and privacy. As the sun set and the sky darkened, they settled on a secluded dock, their bodies pressed close together. The soft murmur of the water and the distant chirping of crickets provided a serene backdrop to their heated conversation. Anna whispering, her voice filled with longing, I can't believe how much this means to me. I've never felt this way about anyone before. Ethan holding her close, his breath warm against her ear, neither have I. It's like everything else has faded away. I only think about you. Their kisses were fueled by desperation and a need for constant validation. Their bodies pressed together, as if trying to merge into one, each touch becoming more fervent and urgent. The emotional intensity of their relationship was mirrored in their physical interactions, creating a cycle of passion and obsession that became increasingly difficult to break. Increasing tension. The emotional and physical strain of their affair began to take a toll on their lives. Ethan's academic performance declined as he became more absorbed in his relationship with Anna. His once promising future seemed to slip away as he devoted more time and energy to their secret rendezvous. Anna's relationships with others, including Richard, suffered as well. Her attempts to maintain a facade of normalcy were increasingly ineffective, and her emotional instability became apparent to those around her. Richard, though oblivious to the full extent of the affair, noticed a change in Anna's demeanor. He observed her growing distance and occasional bouts of irritability, but he attributed these changes to stress and the complexities of blending families. He attempted to offer support, but Anna's responses were curt and dismissive. Richard concerned Anna, "Is everything okay? You seem a bit off lately. Maybe we should talk about it." Anna forcing a smile, her voice tight, "I'm fine, Richard. Just a lot on my plate. I appreciate your concern, but I really don't want to discuss it." Anna's attempts to maintain a semblance of normalcy only added to the pressure of their secret. She became increasingly paranoid and anxious about the possibility of their affair being discovered. Every noise, every glance from Richard felt like a threat to their hidden relationship. The unraveling. The intensity of their obsession started to manifest in increasingly reckless behavior. They began to take greater risks, meeting in more conspicuous places and communicating with less caution. Their sense of invincibility, fueled by their mutual obsession, led them to believe they could escape the consequences of their actions. One night, after an especially passionate encounter, Ethan and Anna found themselves arguing. Their emotions, already on edge from the constant stress and secrecy, boiled over into a heated confrontation. Anna angry, her voice shaking, "We can't keep doing this. I'm losing control, and I don't know how much longer I can handle this." Ethan frustrated, his voice rising, "You think I don't feel the same way? We're trapped in this mess, and it's driving us both crazy." The argument was fueled by their shared frustration and fear. They were both acutely aware of the precariousness of their situation, but neither could bring themselves to end the affair. Instead, they clung to each other more tightly, each seeking solace in the only thing that seemed to make sense amidst the chaos: the breaking point. Their obsession reached a breaking point when Anna began to receive anonymous threats. These messages, written in a shaky hand and left in obscure places around the house, hinted at the knowledge of their affair and the potential consequences. Anna's anxiety escalated, and she became increasingly paranoid, convinced that someone was onto them. Ethan, equally distressed by the threats, tried to comfort Anna but found himself unable to provide the reassurance she needed. The threats intensified, and their secret meetings became fraught with fear and tension. Their once passionate encounters were now overshadowed by the looming threat of exposure. Anna sobbing, her voice trembling, "I don't know what to do, Ethan. I feel like we're being watched, and I'm terrified that everything will fall apart." Ethan holding her tightly, his own fear evident. "We'll get through this. We have to. I won't let anything happen to you." The pressure of their situation, combined with the constant fear of being discovered, created a volatile environment. The affair, which had once been a source of exhilaration and escape, had devolved into a dangerous and consuming obsession. As Anna and Ethan struggled to maintain their secret amidst mounting pressure, the stage was set for a dramatic and tragic confrontation. Their obsessive pursuit of each other, combined with the external threats and internal conflicts, would soon lead to a series of events that would irreversibly alter their lives. Chapter 4. The Plan Goes Awry. Anna and Ethan's plan was both chilling and deceptively simple. They would stage a robbery gone wrong. They believed this would mask their crime as a random act of violence, eliminating Richard, Ethan's father, as an obstacle to their relationship. With Richard out of the way, they could pursue their forbidden love free from fear and guilt. However, the execution of their plan quickly devolved into chaos. The fateful night. The evening of the planned attack was marked by an air of tension and desperation. Anna had meticulously prepared for this night, arranging the house and gathering the tools necessary for their grim scheme. She had chosen to frame the crime as a botched robbery, believing it would be the perfect cover. However, as the hours ticked by, her confidence began to wane, and a growing sense of dread settled over her. Anna had planned to set the scene earlier, but the timing of Richard's arrival caught her off guard. He returned home earlier than expected, his footsteps echoing through the quiet house. The sudden intrusion threw Anna into a state of panic. She was still in the middle of final preparations, and the atmosphere in the house was fraught with an ominous silence. Richard's confusion grew as he called out for Anna, his voice carrying through the empty rooms. When he reached the bedroom, he was met with a chilling sight. Anna was standing over the bed, her hand clutching a knife. The room was eerily still, the only sounds the distant hum of the house's central heating and Richard's labored breathing. Richard confused, his voice tinged with apprehension. "Anna, what are you doing?" Anna's heart raced, her mind a whirlwind of fear and determination. Before Richard could fully comprehend the situation, Anna lunged at him. The attack was chaotic and driven by a desperate frenzy. She stabbed Richard with a frenzied intensity, the blade slashing through the air with terrifying speed. The violence was raw and brutal. Richard's initial shock quickly gave way to pain as the knife plunged into him repeatedly. Blood sprayed across the room, staining the walls and the floor. His eyes, wide with disbelief and agony, locked onto Anna's, who seemed detached from the horror unfolding before her. As Richard's life ebbed away, his body slumped to the floor, leaving a grotesque pool of blood that spread out across the room. Anna stood over him, her breath coming in ragged gasps, the knife still clutched tightly in her hand. But the reality of what she had done began to settle in, but there was no turning back now. Ethan's arrival. Outside, Ethan paced nervously, awaiting the signal to enter. His role in the plan was crucial. He was supposed to help Anna with the aftermath and ensure the scene was convincingly staged. When he heard the sounds of the struggle from inside the house, his heart raced with a mix of fear and anticipation. Ethan burst into the room, his eyes widening in horror at the sight before him. His father's lifeless body lay sprawled in a pool of blood, and Anna stood nearby, her expression a strange mix of calm and detachment. Ethan panicking, his voice rising in disbelief. "Anna, what the hell have you done?" Anna, her voice disturbingly calm, almost tranced. "Like it's over, Ethan. We're free now." Ethan's world shattered as he took in the full extent of their crime. The sight of his father's corpse, the blood-soaked room, and Anna's vacant stare struck him with a profound sense of horror. The enormity of their actions was sinking in, and the gravity of their plan was beginning to unravel. Chapter 5: The Unraveling. The arrival of the authorities. As the police sirens wailed outside, the atmosphere inside the house was charged with a palpable sense of dread. Anna and Ethan, still reeling from the aftermath of their crime, desperately tried to tidy up the scene and maintain their composure. The room, now a grisly tableau of violence, bore witness to their frantic efforts to cover up the evidence. The first officers to arrive were met with the unsettling sight of the front door ajar. The noise of the commotion inside was impossible to ignore, and the officers, trained to detect signs of distress, quickly assessed the situation. As they entered the house, their senses were immediately assaulted by the overpowering scent of blood and the disturbing sight of the disarrayed crime scene. Officer Rodriguez, his voice steady but with an edge of urgency as he surveyed the room. "Everyone stay calm and stay back. We need to secure the area and investigate." The officers moved with practiced efficiency, cordoning off the area and beginning their initial assessment. The scene was chaotic, with furniture overturned, a bloody trail leading to Richard's body, and Anna's carefully staged robbery setup now appearing hastily executed. The inconsistencies in the scene began to raise suspicions. The witnesses and first impressions. Neighbors, drawn by the commotion and flashing lights, gathered outside, their whispers and speculation adding to the growing tension. Among them was Mrs. Thompson, who had been the one to call the police. She recounted hearing loud noises and seeing Anna and Ethan's car parked unusually close to the house. Mrs. Thompson, her voice trembling with concern. "I heard a lot of banging and shouting. It didn't sound like a normal argument. I saw the car parked too close, and it seemed strange because I usually don't see them park there." Her observations were noted by the detectives, who began piecing together the timeline of events. The officers were methodical, examining every detail and interviewing anyone who might provide insight into the victim's recent activities and relationships. The crime scene investigation. The crime scene investigation team arrived, bringing specialized equipment and forensic expertise. They methodically documented the scene, taking photographs and collecting evidence. Their thoroughness was evident as they meticulously combed through the room, noting the blood spatter patterns, the placement of items, and the overall layout of the scene. Forensic investigator pointing to various elements of the scene. "We need to preserve every detail. The blood spatter analysis could give us crucial information about the attack's dynamics and the positioning of the victim and perpetrator." The forensic team discovered several critical pieces of evidence: Anna's personal items, which were deliberately left behind to create a false trail, and a hastily written note that read, "I need to get away. I can't stay here anymore." This note was intended to suggest that Anna had left voluntarily, but instead it added another layer of complexity to the investigation. Interrogations and suspicion. As the investigation progressed, Anna and Ethan were questioned separately. Their alibis and explanations were scrutinized, and their reactions under pressure began to draw the attention of the detectives. Anna's calm demeanor, juxtaposed with the horror of the crime scene, raised red flags. Detective Sanchez to Anna, his tone measured but probing. "Can you explain why there are personal items scattered around the house? Why would you leave so abruptly?" Anna struggled to maintain her composure, her responses becoming increasingly disjointed as the interrogation continued. Ethan, on the other hand, was visibly agitated and defensive, his anxiety betraying his attempts to appear nonchalant. Ethan defensive and visibly sweating, we had no idea what was happening. We just came home and found everything like this. We didn't do anything. The inconsistencies in their stories and their nervous behaviors did not escape the detective's notice. The forensic evidence, combined with the testimony from neighbors, began to paint a troubling picture. The detectives grew increasingly convinced that Anna and Ethan's involvement in the crime was more than coincidental. The revelation. As the investigation unfolded, it became clear that Anna and Ethan's plan was unraveling. The physical evidence, witness statements, and their own conflicting stories began to expose the cracks in their carefully constructed narrative. The detectives' persistent questioning and the forensic evidence began to close in on them. Detective Sanchez to his colleagues, reviewing the evidence, the physical evidence, and the inconsistencies in their stories suggest that Anna and Ethan's story doesn't add up. We need to dig deeper and connect the dots. As the detectives delved deeper into the case, they began to uncover the true nature of Anna and Ethan's relationship, their motives, and the depth of their involvement in the crime. The seemingly straightforward plan they had devised was now the focal point of a complex and deeply disturbing investigation. The emotional toll. For Anna and Ethan, the unraveling of their plan took a significant emotional toll. The weight of their actions and the impending realization that their scheme was falling apart left them both in a state of heightened stress and paranoia. Their once confident facade crumbled as the reality of their situation set in. Anna to Ethan, her voice breaking, "What if they find out everything? What if they know we're lying?" Ethan trying to reassure her but visibly shaken, "We need to stay strong. We've come this far. We can't let them see how scared we are." The chapter closed with Anna and Ethan facing the inexorable consequences of their actions. The plan they had hoped would secure their future was now leading them toward an inescapable confrontation with the truth. The unraveling of their scheme was a testament to the complexity of human behavior and the inescapable nature of justice. The investigation was far from over, and as the detectives continued to piece together the puzzle, the true extent of Anna and Ethan's involvement in the crime became increasingly clear. The coming chapters would reveal the final twists and turns of this harrowing tale. Chapter 6: The Aftermath. The Trial and Verdict. The courtroom was a cauldron of anticipation as the trial of Anna Thompson and Ethan Miller unfolded. Crowded with reporters, community members, and families, the air was thick with a mix of morbid curiosity and righteous indignation. The proceedings were a spectacle, with every detail of the crime laid bare under the harsh courtroom lights. Prosecutor Evans, with grim determination, "Your Honor, the case against Anna Thompson is both clear and compelling. We have forensic evidence, eyewitness accounts, and the confession of Ethan Miller. This evidence paints a picture of a premeditated and heinous crime." The prosecution presented a damning array of evidence, forensic analysis, the testimony of Ethan Miller, and a chilling account of the murder and its aftermath. The jury, while grappling with the emotional weight of the case, faced a straightforward task: determine guilt based on the overwhelming evidence. Defense attorney pleading for leniency. "While the evidence is substantial, I urge you to consider Anna Thompson's psychological state and the coercive influence of her relationship with Ethan. Her actions, though criminal, were driven by complex emotional turmoil." Despite the defense's plea for leniency, the jury's decision was swift. After just a few hours of deliberation, they returned with a verdict of guilty. The courtroom's atmosphere shifted from anxious anticipation to somber acceptance as Judge Harrell pronounced the sentence. Judge Harrell solemnly: "Anna Thompson, you are sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Your actions have irrevocably harmed those around you, and the court finds no grounds for leniency." Anna's expression was one of stunned disbelief. Her once resolute demeanor crumbled as she was led away, the weight of her actions settling heavily upon her. Ethan's fate. Ethan Miller, having cooperated with the authorities, received a reduced sentence. The court acknowledged his confession but could not overlook his role in the crime. Ethan's reduced sentence did little to ease the burden of his guilt. Ethan reflecting on his release: "I've been given a second chance, but I know I can never fully escape what I've done. I can only hope to find some semblance of redemption in the years ahead." Ethan's release marked the beginning of a difficult journey. He struggled with the weight of his actions and the profound impact they had on his life and the lives of others. Rebuilding his life was a daunting task, marred by the shadows of his past. The community and the Thompson house. The town was shaken to its core by the tragedy. The Thompson house, once a symbol of affluence, stood as a ghostly monument to the crime. Its windows, darkened and forlorn, reflected the somber mood of the community. Neighbor Johnson, reflecting on the impact of the case, "It's haunting to think that something so awful happened here. The house feels like a symbol of everything that went wrong." Years passed, and the property fell into disrepair, its overgrown garden and decaying walls a visual testament to the darkness that had unfolded within. The haunting legacy. For the police officers who worked on the case, the memory of the Thompson murder was a lasting shadow. The complexities of the crime, the psychological profiles of Anna and Ethan, and the profound loss of Richard Thompson lingered in their minds. Detective Sanchez, years later, reflecting on the case, "Some cases never leave you. This was one of those. It's a constant reminder of how far people can fall when driven by their darkest impulses." The unexpected revelation. As the town slowly returned to its rhythm, a chilling new development emerged. Several months after the trial, an anonymous tip led the police to a hidden compartment in the basement of the Thompson house. Inside, they discovered a series of recordings and documents that revealed a startling twist to the story. The recordings, made by Richard Thompson himself, detailed his growing suspicions and fears about Anna and Ethan's relationship. Richard had, unbeknownst to Anna and Ethan, been documenting his observations and concerns, fearing that their relationship might lead to disaster. The recordings captured his growing paranoia and the final, fateful moments when he realized the depth of their deceit. The most shocking revelation came in the final recording. Richard had discovered Anna's plan before the murder occurred. He had intended to confront her and expose the affair, but his attempt to bring the truth to light was tragically cut short. Richard's recordings hinted at a deeper, more sinister layer to the story, suggesting that there were aspects of the plot that had never been uncovered. Detective Sanchez, discussing the new evidence, "These recordings change everything. They suggest that Richard was on the verge of exposing something far more complex than we initially understood. It's a reminder that sometimes the truth is even darker than we imagine." The discovery of the recordings sent shockwaves through the community. It turned the tragic story of Anna and Ethan into a chilling narrative of deception and premeditation that extended beyond what anyone had initially believed. The town was left grappling with the disturbing realization that the true depth of the tragedy had only come to light long after the initial case had been closed. As the Thompson house continued to stand as a grim reminder of the past, the unexpected revelation served as a dark epilogue to a story that had already shaken the town to its core. The true nature of the events, now partially revealed, left a lingering sense of unease and a reminder of the many secrets that can remain hidden beneath the surface of even the most shocking stories.